Hi, welcome back. Now we welcome our security update with Security Director Tim Moy. Welcome, sir.
Hi.
Good to have you here this morning.
Thanks for having me.
And it's time for celebration because Laguna Woods Village has been given a very special award.
It has. We received from the American Red Cross the Excellence in Preparedness Award at last week's Disaster Academy that they put on every year.
Disaster Academy.
Right.
That sounds like my house.
Right.
That just sounds like where I lived.
Oh,
Disaster Academy. But this is really cool. Last week you attended the Disaster Academy, the American Red Cross event, and they awarded you the Disaster Preparedness Award.
Absolutely. So we were one of two organizations that received it. It was their 33rd Academy, and this is a special award. We put a lot of time and effort into this. Matter of fact, the Red Cross had actually worked with us on this. We pulled them in to be a part of our plan.
Oh.
Yeah, because obviously in an emergency or some type of disaster, the Red Cross is going to play a critical role in that. So we wanted to make sure that they were part of our partnership.
Well, what kind of details go into preparing this kind of plan?
Right, a lot to it. I mean, first of all, Laguna Woods Village is not required to do it. We're a private community. But we're the size of a small city.
Yes.
And so just like all the municipalities across the county and across the nation, they're required to have one. We wanted to make sure that we had one as well. And so it's everything that each city does, the county does. We wanted to be unified. But it's getting down in the details. Our emergency operations plan. Do we have an emergency operations center? Do we have an evacuation plan?
Yes.
How are we using our community center and our clubhouses as locations where people can go in the event that there's something wrong with the building or the residents that they live in? So we really got into it. The rain event action plan. If there's an earthquake, is there a storm, is whatever the incident is, we are ready to respond to that.
I had a question too, because I noticed that there's something called the windshields. What is this?
Right, windshield survey. So yeah, you're going, what is a windshield survey?
What is a windshield survey?
Yes, and that falls on security. And actually, we would probably use maintenance, all those that are out in the field. So in the event of an earthquake or something, let's say it's minor, maybe a power outage.
Yes.
We're going to send our officers out and do a windshield survey. Take a look out at what's going on, what's in front of you, what do you see, report back. So there's your windshield survey.
Okay.
And that comes back to dispatch, and then if we have activated our emergency operations center, that gives the management team information so that they can prioritize. Say, okay, hey, here are our areas that we have to focus on.
Yes.
And if it's, we recognize that we're just a small piece of the puzzle as well. We've got our first responders, our emergency personnel, our fire, and our sheriff, and we're going to be working alongside them as well.
Well, we are a good neighborhood, but we have lots of good neighbors around us that collaborate to make this plan happen. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, great question. So part of this plan is making sure that we work well with all the different organizations. First of all, the County of Orange, the emergency manager for the county.
Yes.
When we were looking at this, I've got a background in emergency operations, but not necessarily in writing plans.
Oh,
So I sat down with our emergency manager for the entire county and I said, hey, I'm looking for a consultant. She directed me to the emergency manager's quarterly meeting. And I just started putting the information out. I found a consultant who was a former emergency manager. We brought her in. And her team, they immersed themselves into this community. They wrote a great plan for us. I think it's the best plan in the county. I really do. Obviously, the Red Cross thinks it's an outstanding plan as well. So we're excited as to, I don't know about excited, but we feel very good about what steps we've taken to prepare our community.
Yes, good to have that confidence.
Right, exactly.
Because, and that instills confidence in everyone that lives here, but also the fact that we aren't really prepared, we aren't required to have this preparedness plan in place, but that you went to all the proper county and city agencies and asked for their advice, their consultation to put this plan together. That's incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah, we did. We brought in several partners, whether it be the water district, again. Matter of fact, I'm meeting with the Sheriff's Department today. I met with the County Emergency Manager last week. So, having these relationships is so important, and it's one of those things where if there is an issue, if there's something that's occurring, you know who to call,
Mm-hmm.
and you're on that first name basis. And that's why it's so important for us to maintain that partnership, that collaboration with our, we call it the operational area. I don't want to get too technical, but it's important to know that we're doing the same thing that every other city across the county is doing.
And that's really necessary, especially at a time like this when we've been noticing so many current events that involve
Right.
weather events
Oh.
and earthquakes,
Sure.
floods, hurricanes. This is a very timely moment to
Right.
come together with a disaster preparedness plan.
Absolutely, Connie, that's a great point. I mean, if you know, just look across our nation and some of the hurricanes. You know, we had Irma, Harvey, we had Maria, and what it did to Puerto Rico, and you see the devastation
Jose.
that occurred.
He's out there too.
Exactly. I mean, we've got, I know, all these different ones, but
Right.
even locally, just across the border down in Mexico, what
Yes.
occurred. Looking locally, we have the fires going on right now in Anaheim Hills and Corona. We had the La Tuna fire in Los Angeles
Yes.
area. So, am I concerned about a hurricane here in Southern California? No. Am I concerned about an earthquake or a fire? Or after the fires do their work, and then you have the rains that come in, and then you see landslides, flooding, what have you. So, we want to make sure that we're prepared. But, when it comes to the village, we're going to do our part. But we're also asking our members, our residents here, that they've got to be responsible. They've got to be accountable as well.
Yes, having that responsibility and be personally responsible for your own safety and to
Correct.
be aware of what
Right.
options you have in a disaster and be aware of the plan that's been put into place.
Sure.
That's very important. Tell me more about that.
Right. Well, so now looking at our personal responsibility, what I'd like people to do, and there's a few things that they can do, and one is go visit our disaster preparedness office downstairs
Yes.
and make sure that they have a go bag. They take
A go bag?
Yeah, a go bag. It's those emergency supplies
Oh.
that you may need. One, if you have to shelter in place in your residence and you have to be self-sufficient for anywhere from 3 days to a week, we want to make sure that you're going to be okay.
Oh, so if you have to stay right there in your own home
Right.
for 3 to 7 days and possibly without power,
Correct.
maybe with a water supply that isn't
Right.
what you're used to or
Right.
something like that, that you want people to be prepared to do that in their own homes.
Absolutely.
And then they have a go bag.
Right, so you can have a go bag in your vehicle. So
Okay.
if you're traveling, that you have something that has emergency supplies in there. Maybe it's medication, it's a small amount of food as well, water, same type of things. But I'd like to refer people to a few different sites. One is our own site,
Yes.
our Laguna Woods village site, and if you just click on to security and then to disaster preparedness, it's going to give you a list of things that you can do. And I've brought just the document
Oh,
here.
I see.
I probably should have sent it to you earlier.
No, this is good. This
But
is
this
a good
is
list.
it's a checklist
Okay.
of things to do. And if
Oh, battery-powered AM/FM
Right.
radio.
and if you
Yeah.
want to compare what we're doing, we also have Radio C that gives a very similar list. So we're very consistent with what the county is doing and with what we're doing.
So the county has the program called Ready OC.
Go to Radio C, go
Uh-huh.
to the disaster preparedness website, take a look at the list, start gathering the right types of items just in the event of something occurs. Again, hey, we're doing our part. We need our residents to do their part. And because in the event of an emergency, we may be limited with resources. We know that first responders may be limited. Look
Yes.
across what's taking place.
Yes.
We need, and of course, listen, I believe in the human spirit of the Americans living here in
Yes.
this country and how we take care of each other. I think that will occur. But you may be called to take care of your neighbor who did not prepare. So do your part, encourage others to do their part as well.
Well, it's great to have this comprehensive list too, because not only does it mention the things that'll help you survive
Right.
for that possible 3 to 7 day period where you really might need to have that help in your own home or in your go bag.
Sure.
But also, you can put your contact information, everything you need about who
Right.
to contact in case of emergency in your own care or your
Absolutely.
family members and
Right.
things
And,
like that too.
You know, the medication is important as well.
Yes.
Having something there to be able to grab and go, and you don't want to be without medication, or if you don't have access to a doctor or medical help, that's nice to have.
Oh, well, here we see the Ready OC website. And that's what it looks like when you, oh my goodness, that's a flood. So that's
Right.
what it looks like when you visit the county website to understand their disaster preparedness plan. But of course, Laguna Woods Village now has won an award
Right.
for our disaster preparedness from the
Right.
Red Cross. So you can see the same kind of plan here.
We're doing a pretty good job, and one of the events that's coming up is the Great California Shakeout next month, October 19th. That's right around the corner.
Wow.
I know. What is that? That's, again, it's another initiative. It's a national initiative to ensure people are prepared, and it's earthquake preparedness. And what do you
Yes.
do in the event of an earthquake? But for us, we're going to be doing a tabletop exercise with our Village Management Services team.
Okay.
And we're going to ask our Good Neighbor building captains. Last month I was wearing one of those vests.
Yes.
Right,
With
you
a
remember
bright
that?
vest
There you go,
on.
bright yellow vest.
Right.
They're going to take a trip around their block or the building that they live in, and they're going to check the structure. And then they're going to check on their neighbors. They fill out a form that we've given them.
Yes.
And scenarios. And then they're going to submit it up to our Emergency Operations Center, where we're going to be working on a tabletop exercise. And again, it's all part of preparedness.
What is a tabletop exercise? What does that mean?
Right. So a tabletop exercise is we're going to have a scenario of an earthquake or some type of disaster.
Okay.
And we're going to ask our team to take that new emergency operations plan
Yes.
and open it up to what their responsibility is, and then to be able to act on it or answer questions, or here's what we would do, here's where we would deploy our resources, here's what actions we would take, here's how we're going to work with the county and the city, with our first responders.
Wow.
There's a lot to it.
And this is part of the event that's coming up in November.
October.
In October, sorry.
October 19th.
October 19th, the event
Right.
that's coming up, where you'll have people who can be a part of observing this tabletop exercise as well.
No.
No, it's just for the Good Neighbor
No,
captains.
so we've got, yeah.
I'm
that's
sorry.
That's
I'm so
okay,
excited
Connie.
about it. It sounds so
We've got
interesting. I want to see
We've
it.
got our internal management team working on a tabletop, and it gets
Okay.
kind of cramped in there.
Oh, okay.
Limited
All right.
space.
All right.
But our Good Neighbor building captains are out in the community, and they are
Thank you.
checking. That's okay. And so let's say this is a random form.
Okay.
They check on it. They check on their neighbors. They go, okay, Connie, she's doing okay. We don't need to
Yes.
worry about her.
Yes.
She's gonna shelter in place. But somebody else, Tom Smith, is got a minor injury, and they fill that information out. That information gets forwarded to our Emergency Operations Center.
Okay.
And then we get to prioritize and determine who needs help first. And if we have first responders on scene, we're going to give them that information. If we don't, we're going to try to do our best to handle that.
Well, this is very detailed, and
It
it's
is.
so important, this information and this line of communication.
Right.
Because clear and immediate communication is always the best policy and the best
Absolutely.
action in the case of a disaster or any kind of emergency. So that's why I got a little lost in the details,
Yeah.
because I was real interested in hearing about how you carry out this preparedness and these drills and preparing the different levels,
Sure.
the hierarchy of
Sure.
teams.
Yeah, and there's a lot to it, and it starts up at the county EOC, Emergency Operations Center. I start
Okay.
throwing these acronyms out, but to let you know that the city has one as well, and we have good communication with them as well.
Yes.
Matter of fact, during an emergency, we're going to put somebody in their Emergency Operations Center so we can maintain that communication.
That's wonderful.
It's a pretty good plan here. We feel very comfortable. Now, of course, every situation, every event, disaster, whatever it might be, is a little bit different, and we're going to have to be able to modify it as appropriate, and confident we will. I still fall back on our residents, though. I still
Yes.
fall back on them doing their part and how important that is.
Well, if you're continuing to recruit for Good Neighbor captains,
Right.
how can people get in touch with you to find out a
Yes.
little bit more about it?
Great, thanks, Connie. They can either go down to the Disaster Preparedness Office,
Mm-hmm.
or we have additional training coming up on October 3rd.
October
and that's at
3rd.
11 a.m. And I believe it's at Clubhouse 7, but we'll be sending out emails
Mm-hmm.
and more information. But we do have some training, and that's just an opportunity to come to a class. It's taught by one of our residents here that does a great job. She's been doing it for years, and she's just going to introduce you to that program. It's pretty simple. We're not asking you to go and save lives, although if you're a doctor or if you've got some medical background, we'd love to use you. But it's just, again, checking on your building, checking on your neighbors, and submitting that information.
So this is something that'll probably happen next week. 1st
Right.
of October.
Right.
October 3rd, we're pretty sure,
Yeah.
but we just...
No, it is October 3rd.
Okay.
The training's on October 3rd. It's at 11 a.m.
Well, just location to be
it's
determined.
Clubhouse 7. I apologize.
Right. But this means that anyone who's interested in learning more about being a good neighbor captain for
Correct.
their area, they
Correct.
can go learn a lot more about it
Absolutely.
in this event.
Absolutely. And we'd love to have them, and we need more. We've got a few hundred. For a community this size, having a few hundred is not enough. We need about 1,000. And so we're desperate for our residents to step forward. And you're not too old to do this. You're not, you know, if you're busy in other areas of your life, you know, you got a lot going on, we'll still take you. During an emergency, we need those who are willing to step up and help.
And I think that the recent current events have really made people
Sure.
aware that this is truly necessary and important, and more people would probably want to be there for their neighbors and,
Right. Well, I
and for
tell
their community.
you, yeah, our sales have been going up in the disaster preparedness office. So a
Well,
lot of
good.
people are, you know, keeping an eye on what's going on across the nation, and they've gone in there and they've started to pick up more supplies. So we do see a spike in sales when we have some type of event. But then after time, you know how it is, we tend to get complacent, we get comfortable, and then, you know, we just don't think about it. But this is a great time to be just mindful of what is occurring and to be ready.
Well, congratulations
Yeah,
on the
thank
Red
you.
Cross Award
Yeah.
for disaster preparedness, and your team is doing great things for our
Right.
community. And thank you for being with us
Yeah,
today.
thanks, Connie. It's always good to see you.
Good to see you too. And good to see all of you. Please stay with us right after this. Ken will be right back.